So very quickly, so the sexual revolution, I said, is the most important kind of, and the most proximate cause of where we are today. But the sexual revolution itself has antecedents. And again, important for us as Muslims, we're trying to get a large conceptual and historical view of the issue so that we can understand them in their proper context and as deeply and as accurately as possible. So sexual revolution has antecedents, right? This goes back to, you could say, the rise of sort of the modern period, 15th, 16th century, 17th century, particularly with the scientific revolution. Again, I'm not going to say much on this. I'm at the bottom of this slide, you're going to see a talk I've given on these things in much more detail, so I'll refer you to that. But with the scientific revolution in the 17th century, you have the rise of a materialistic, mechanical view of the world, right? The world is now seen as just being this kind of clock ticking along, material stuff out there. And one of the results of this is that God essentially is cut off from his creation. I mean, not really, of course, because if we're not for God's will, the whole creation would cease to exist in the blink of an eye. But in people's minds, right, in their worldview, they no longer see God's hand in his creation, right? Whereas before, there things were created with a purpose, and they were given a teleology, a purpose by God, and they were seen to have a particular nature that was imbued, through divine agency and so forth. The universe as a whole, as well as human beings collectively and individually. And this starts to fall by the wayside in the Western consciousness with the rise of a kind of materialistic and mechanical worldview. So you have a loss of inherent meaning and purpose, right? And this is important because if there's no meaning out there in the world, there's no intrinsic meaning, no inherent meaning, and there's no inherent meaning in human existence or my personal existence, then either you live in a world without meaning, which is one of the main themes of modernity. How do we grapple with kind of the meaninglessness of it all? Which is why I have so much absurd art and pessimistic art, because people are really staring this meaninglessness in the face, right? Yeah. So either there is no meaning, or whatever meaning there is, because there's no meaning out there that's been put in it by a creator God, the only meaning that there could be is something that's self-generated. I generate the meaning and I impose the meaning. And that goes back to why we say now, as of the sexual revolution, okay, the male body and female body, they don't mean anything anymore. There's no inherent, it's obvious that they're meant to be complementary. I mean, just, a 5-year-old could tell you that. Just look at the one body and the other. It's clear that what was meant to go where and how it's all supposed to fit together. But the idea is that there is no more, this is not seen as like intended or endowed with like an inherent purposefulness or teleology or nature that, that to violate would be a moral violation, right? Your body is just stuff, and you inhabit it as this immaterial mind, and it's up to you to run your stuff however you want, do with your stuff whatever you want, and to give whatever meaning to your stuff and what you do with it that you want to, right? So you're just sovereign to kind of impart meanings. And this is totally different from the pre-modern worldview, completely, alien to the Islamic worldview, obviously, right? But this is sort of very central to the modern consciousness.